So it is not recording. Why? Sometimes doesn't like starting again because, it's quality equipment. Yeah, my battery's running low. No kidding. Okay, so no questions about the trees. Everyone is good? Lovely. He said in a Muppety sounding voice. Wait, no flies on you, Eric. It says you know what's going on around you. Number 15 caused much grief because of the way the question is worded. It says it needs GHJ, which is this whole angle on the big triangle. So in order to do that, you needed to first find this blue part. How did you find this blue part? You did Pythagoras, 9 squared minus 6 squared to get square root of 45, which you could have rounded to 6.7, but it would have been better if you left it as the square root of 45. Plus 4, and then you did trig on the red triangle using 10.7 across the bottom, or, better yet, you did 4 plus the square root of 45, and used that right there with brackets around it. So you did bracket 4 plus square root of 45, close brackets divided by 6. And of course it was a shift tan situation. Did anybody need me to go over that one? Going once. Going twice. No, the question was asking for the measure of angle GHJ, which means you have to go from G to H to J. I needed that whole angle, which is why I redrew the red triangle. Cool? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I like where this is going. Number 16. Bit of a tough question if you don't know what a guy wire is, as opposed to a gal wire. Get it? Ah. I know, it's not a great one, but what are you going to do? It's not Dad Joke Thursday. A guy wire, you actually do know what they are. They're those wires that are attached to antennas and things to keep them from blowing over in the wind. If you have set up any old school tents, you have set up guy wires because those are the things that pull the fly off the tent, so when it rains you don't get soaked. Anyways, obviously you needed to do 2 triangles. The first triangle was the red one with an angle of elevation of 32. That same distance along the ground, 8 and 8, but the other wire went up at a higher angle. So I do the exact same work because I was needing the length of the wires. So I had to do cos because I had adjacent and I needed the hypotenuse. Now, Am I allowed to do 8 divided by cos 32 and round it off and get an answer over here? Is that okay? Yep. And I'm allowed to do 8 divided by cos 56 and round it off and get an answer over here, yes? And then add those two rounded answers. Is that okay? Yes. Is it the best? No, the best thing is you keep them like this. You go to your calculator, you go 8 divided by cos 32 plus 8 divided by cos 56. Your calculator knows how to do BEDMAS. It will do it right. Sometimes, though, you make entry errors and your calculator screws up. So it's always good, and it's good practice, because as you go further in math, the calculations can get more and more complicated. You want to practice using your bracket buttons as much as possible. So if I were punching this in and I were you guys, I would go bracket 8 divided by cos 32, or 32 cos, depending on what your calculator does, close brackets, plus open brackets, 8 divided by cos 56, close brackets equals. That's how I would do it. And then I would round off at the very end. Is everyone good with page 67? I'm doing that mind reading thing now where I read your minds and I try to decide if you were indeed good with it or not. And I am coming up with nothing because I can't read your mind. So the fact that nobody has put their hands up means when I assign you a question in about 10 minutes that is exactly like one of those 3 questions, not one of you is going to have to ask about it, are you? Sweet! This is going to be an easy day for me. Next question. Problem is always in number 17, drawing the triangles. Always, always, always. There they are. Tom's in his building. He's looking across at another building. Please notice that I am not giving any bonus points for artistic impression. This is not the Olympics. I only care about your technical scores. Aight? Even if you are super pretty and you dance real well, you're not getting extra points. So there's the drawing. Why, if this is 130, why is that 130? Because Tom would look straight across, right? So obviously, if Tom were in this building, he'd be 130 feet off the ground. So you already knew the bottom part. So the question was, I needed to find out how this part, from where Tom was up to Elizabeth. But I can't do that because the triangle with Tom and Elizabeth only has one piece of information, an angle. I need the other side. That's why this A is here. Because this bottom triangle with Tom and Sandra does have 2 pieces of information, 40 and 130. I use that to find out A, which is, of course, right here, 130 divided by tan 40. And then, if I want to do this the best possible way, I don't actually calculate that until I need it over here. The adjacent is 130 divided by tan 40. And then if I was going to punch this in, tan 10 equals opposite x over adjacent. 130 divided by tan 40. This then has to multiply by this. Yes? So I have to take tan 10 and multiply it by 130 divided by tan 40. Close brackets equals. And that will give me the right answer, whatever it is. Now that's weird because it's going to give me a big number. But the question doesn't want big number. The question is how many floors separate Sandra and Elizabeth. So what must you do with that big number? Because each floor is how big? 10. So that big number must be divided by 10 to find out how many floors apart they are. Notice I haven't done the work because you're supposed to tell me. How far is it? He waited patiently and said to himself, it's a good thing I didn't do a homework check today or I would have felt bad about my teaching ability, he said quietly in his head to himself. Or would he not have felt bad about his teaching ability? He would have recognized the fact that none of his students did the work that they were supposed to do, which is not his fault, because he knows he did a good job teaching it. Of course. Okay. Next question. This question is a problem for a couple of reasons. Not this question, but what this question does to future questions. If I want to find the angle of inclination, it has to be this one, yes? You know, because this is 8 and this is 8, that this is the same theta, right? But you also know that we cannot do trig unless we have a right angle triangle, yes? The only way to make a right angle triangle here is to draw this line. Everybody's cool with that, right? Now, because this is 8 and this is 8, this is an isosceles triangle, which means that line is going right down the middle, correct? Which makes this distance how far? 6. Then, of course, using cosine, you will find theta. You will shift cos, because you needed an angle, of 6 divided by 8, because the hypotenuse is always on the bottom. And I believe the answer is 41 degrees. But I can't quite remember. That's not what's important here. What's important here is this. What if I gave you this triangle? 6, 7, and 12. And I told you to do some trig with that. Can you? As it's drawn right now, can I do trig with that triangle? No, why not? There's no 90 degrees. Can I make it have 90 degrees? Sure. If I go right there, I get a 90 degree, don't I? How long's this part? Nobody knows, do they? Because it's not 6, is it? Because that's not an isosceles triangle. So when I cut it in the middle, I cannot split this bottom. Some of you will do that. Can I do trig with that? Yes or no? I now have two triangles. I have that triangle, which is 90, and I have that triangle, which is 90. Can I do some trig yet? Why not?
You don't have enough information.
Pardon me?
You don't have enough information.
I don't have enough information. Because what do I need to be able to do trig? Two sides or a side and an angle. Do I have any angles? Do I have two sides of either of my right angle triangles? No. Next year, you will learn that you can do trig with that triangle without any of this middle poop. But not till next year. Okay? What? No. This is what it looks like, though. No, sorry. It's not done yet. That. No, it says 2. Now that looks complicated, doesn't it? Yeah. Except what do you know about small letters? They're the sides. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. What do you know about big letters? That's an angle. If I tell you that this is C, where's big angle? There's C. If If I tell you that's A and that's B, there's big A, there's big B. Now, A, B, C, big C. Now that's super easy, isn't it? What? Oh yeah, sorry. Oops. But now, big A, big B. Now, that big scary formula is super easy, isn't it? Because what goes in for A, B, C? Do you know what A is? Do you know what B is? Do you know what C is? Do you know what A is? Do you know what C is? So you can do all this and you're left with one unknown. So all you do is algebra. And that big scary thing is nothing more difficult than x plus 7 equals 11. Exactly. And if you can do that, you can do that. But that's for next year. So now I will make it disappear. I put number 19 on here because it's another building question. Why did I use colors? Because you have two different triangles. You have the green triangle and you have the purple triangle. But otherwise, it's the same thing. Now, the answer is apparently 27 meters. That's what somebody in the other class said. I don't care. I don't agree. Or I agree. Because, of course, the highlighted stuff in yellow is the important stuff. If you write the highlighted stuff in yellow, and then you tell me the answer is 725, am I concerned? I'm a little bit concerned because 725 meters tall of a building is taller than, I think, every building in the world. So that is a little bit of a concern. But let's pretend that that's okay. Right? More likely, I'm going to say, oh, this kid knows how to do trig, but they're calculated in some kind of wrong mode, or they pushed a button wrong, or they squared something they shouldn't have. Right? Because this is what matters. I've said it before, I will say it again. Show me your work so you can show me that you know what you're doing. Because if you don't show me work and you give me a nonsense answer, I have to assume that you know nothing. Okay? And there's the mountain question. Two boys are on opposite sides of the mountain. The mountain's 1,350 feet tall. So obviously they have to climb up the sides of the mountain, which are the two hypotenuses of the two 90-degree triangles that I made when I cut the mountain in half. Of course, I didn't really cut the mountain in half. I cut a drawing of the mountain in half. Put a little mountain goat here. Bah. There we go. It's a mountain goat. Why you got to be that way? It's an animal on a mountain. What else would you think it is? It's got horns and it's going bah. A mountain lion that goes bah. That would be utterly frightening. My goodness, I'm about to be eaten by a cougar. Bah. I think I'll be okay. Roar! I'm going to run. I just found out yesterday that my contact picture on my daughter's phone for me is a picture of the old goat at Coombs on Vancouver Island that lives on the roof. If you haven't been to Coombs, there's a market in Coombs that have goats that live on the roof. My daughter took a picture with her phone and made that the contact picture for me on her phone. The old goat. She says that it is because I never pose for pictures, so she has no pictures of me on her phone. So she just put the goat there. I think she's a big liar. I have been debating making this. All right. Okay, listen up. That was, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm usually not, that was page 68. Twas. I lie. Page 69 was the mountains, with the mountain goats. On page 70, I don't want you to do all of that because you've done a little bit of extra trig already. But I do wish for you to do a couple of these. But there's a problem. The answers on the bottom are not the right answers for some of them. I printed it wrong somehow, like an idiot. I don't know how it happened, but it did. So, I want you guys to do, and I can't remember which answers are wrong because the computer's frozen. Yeah, a bunch of those are wrong. So, you won't be able to check your work. But I want you to do 13. I want you to do 9. And I want you to do 10. And I want you to do 15. It should take about 3 minutes a question. So I'm going to walk around for the next 12 minutes. And then we're going to go over these. Go.